Okay, so today we are going to try and make some homemade egg bites. And so we have all of our ingredients here. And let's get started. All right, so I'm gonna start out by making these homemade egg bites really simple. I have my eggs, my milk, a little bit of cheese, some bacon, and some butter. Now this recipe is kind of like a casserole. You can put peppers and spinach and chives, or anything that you really like to eat at even breakfast time. You could put in these, but I'm just going to try it really simple to start out with. Preheat your oven to 275 degrees. All right, so the first thing we want to do is put our eggs in our big bowl here. Okay, we've got our 2 eggs. All right, and then we want to add we're going to add our half a cup of regular milk. Now I am using almond milk for this, plant-based milk, just because that's what I prefer, but you can use any kind of milk or cream that you'd like to. And then I'm just going to put a little bit of cheese in here. You can put a whole cup of cheese in this recipe if you'd like to, but I'm just putting a tiny bit of mozzarella. And then I'm going to put my bacon, which I have 2 tablespoons of cooked bacon here. You can freshly cook it, or you can buy it, already done. Okay. It also says you can put ketchup in this recipe, which I do like ketchup on my eggs, but I'm going to hold off for just a minute. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I'm going to pour this into a measuring cup just to make it easier to put it in my muffin tins. You don't have to do this step, but I'm thinking it's going to make it a lot easier for me. And then to prepare your muffin tins, you can either use some little paper liners, or you can melt 2 tablespoons of butter to just brush around on your muffin tin. You can also use your larger muffin tins if you'd like, but I want to make them bites, so I'm going to use smaller ones here. It also says you can use a mini ice cream scoop or a small ladle to put it in each muffin cup, but again, I'm going to try using the measuring cup. Okay. And just starting out, because I want to see how much I have, I'm only going to put about 3/4 of the way up. I don't know how much they're going to rise. This measuring cup seems to be working pretty well so far. Okay. Whoop. All right. Ooh, there's a disadvantage. A lot of the bacon has stayed in the bottom. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this bacon and just drop it into a few of these cups. We don't want to miss out on that. Or have a few egg bites that is all bacon. And now see, that's filling them up to the top, so we'll see how that goes. And that means this recipe made about 12 minis. All right. There we go. All right. And if you'd like to, you can sprinkle a little bit of more bacon and cheese on the top, but I think I'm going to leave mine like this. Cook this at 275 degrees. Now, if you're using the mini tin, you want to do 10 to 15 minutes. If you did regular size egg muffins, you want to do 16 to 20 minutes. Okay. There we go. All right, here they are. So that was a little trickier than I thought it was going to be. The recipe had said 275 degrees for about 10 to 15 minutes. But then in the notes section, it had said there's a tendency that, different oven times cook differently and things like that. So I ended up having to put them on 300 degrees for a few minutes. So I ended up cooking them at 275 for 15 minutes on the 300 degrees at like 8 minutes. And it says they're still supposed to be a little jiggly, which they are. So I'm just going to let them sit here on the counter and cool off a little bit. I don't have risk of them getting stuck to the muffin tin because they're in papers. So we're just going to let them sit here and cool, and then we'll come back and see how they look. All right, so I've let them sit here on the counter for just a little bit. And I'm not quite sure, after all, if the recipe said to just pour them straight into your molds with a little bit of butter poured in. They might have had the right idea, because these look like they might be a little bit hard to get out of the paper. Yeah, so see, that might be a little hard to eat. These, it said not to overcook them, but some of these just really look like they're undone. Yeah, see, that looks so soft. So I don't know that I would necessarily say this was a successful bake. I definitely will probably try these again, but these definitely look underdone. And again, I cooked them at 275 for 15 minutes like it recommended, and then I bumped it up to 300 degrees for about 8 minutes, and those just don't look finished. So, all right. So I would say this is probably a fail, not on the recipe's fault, but maybe on some tweaking that I did, and we'll just keep trying. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you like and subscribe, and we'll try again on some other bake.